Hey, everybody. Welcome to the People, Purpose, and Profits Business Coaching Podcast. My name is Brian Buck and my wonderful co-host.
And I'm Kat.
And we are so excited to be here with you today. We are going to talk about goals. Kat, everyone knows what goals are. Why in the world are we talking about it?
Because I find it that a lot of people, have wishes, but not so much goals. We all want to lose weight. We all want to make money. We all want all these things. And, those desires are not really what's going to get us there, but actually writing stuff down, putting dates, having accountability partners. And I think of goals as a much more complex thing than just stating a desire. Well, what is your experience with goals, and what have you done? What have your clients done?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say why I'm also passionate talking about it is everyone talks about goals, but I have found as a coach, when you actually follow up with people on what they are, they're not as effective or detailed. And I think sometimes people even take it past the wish phase, and they might have it on a post-it or on a mirror, but people haven't really gone even further. Or I also found with goal setting, everyone's awesome at goal setting. They're like, here's my SMART goal. It's specific, it's measurable, it's timely, it's relevant, but then they don't do anything. And I remember hearing this phrase a while ago on what they call a shelf development. And this idea that because I bought the book, my brain says, oh, I did something towards it. Even though I didn't follow the book or follow the course, I think goal setting sometimes for people is, hey, I set the goal. And sometimes your brain goes, oh, that's enough. But really, to be high performance and to be successful, whether we're a small business or a medium-sized business or a solopreneur, either a coach or consultant, we've got to be really good at this stuff to be able to actually move the needle and get to what we're trying to design. And I think that's the real piece, is recognizing how we can actually control and shape more of our lives and our business through goals by actually following through that initial piece of writing it down.
Right. And I do think that a lot of people want the outcome, but they're not really willing to do the work, because that's where it really truly begins, when you start taking action, when you start noticing the things that come up, and facing some things, and taking responsibility also. That's probably the most challenging part, is that people would love to get in shape, but if someone else is doing it for them, and I'm not sure exactly who said that, but it is really true. We all want to be successful. We all want to make all the money, but if someone else does the heavy lifting. So I think it was Brendan Bashar who said it, that common knowledge is not common practice. And that to me really opened up my eyes, going back to what you said. Just because we're reading books and because we understand the concept, if we're not applying it, it's really not serving us in any way. And we can have all this knowledge, is not gold anymore, because we have knowledge at our fingertips. We have Google for that, right? And we can look up anything, but Google is not going to solve it for us unless we get behind the action and understand why we want to do it. I think that's really one of the most important parts of goal setting, is understanding why you want it. Because the more reasons you want, and the better you understand what you're doing it for, and it's, whether it's causing you pleasure or is giving you pain, understanding those two will help you stick, especially when the going gets hard.
Yeah, I completely agree. You explaining that makes me think of a joke that I'm sure I've shared on the show. But it is, you want to know what the best diet in the world is, the one that works every time? It's the
Not
one
the
you
one you
stick
do.
to. And
Right.
I think the same thing is, there's so much out there on how to do goals. Maybe you do journals, maybe you do a Kanban board, maybe you do a vision board, maybe you hire a project man. It doesn't matter the method, as long as you have a method and you stick with it. And yeah, and I think you're so right in, I don't think that people, sometimes, yes, people don't want to do the work. That's one of the things that I have found coaching people with fear of success, is if they have some form of success already, it's not that they fear greater success. They just knew how much work it was to get there the first time. To take it to another level means more work. So that is sometimes a barrier. But I think a lot of it really comes down to, I think there's a lot of overwhelm, because people often set their goals at the big level. Like, okay, yeah, like one of my goals, I know my business has arrived, is when I will be able to follow Pearl Jam on a world tour, and I want to go to every, this is literally one of my goals. I can't wait till we have the episode, or the episodes that I do streaming. But uh, I want to explore the city with my family during the day, enjoy the show at night, and to be able to work on the road. Now that's
That's,
huge.
or you just
If I
declared
just
it.
said, what's that?
I say you just declared it. Sometimes that's part of the goal, declaring
Yeah,
it and having support system, to get you to your goals.
right. But what I say, if you have it so big, and then I go, oh, I can never do that. But you got to break it down, because I think sometimes we have such big goals that we go, there's no way. But if you start to go, okay, what can I do today, or what do I do in the first quarter, or the first, or year one? Because I think that's the other piece, is people set the goals, but then they don't break it down even further, and that is what's really critical, because no one does anything big. It looks
Right. And
big in hindsight, but it's all little things.
right. And another thing that you made me think of is that people do that to kind of sabotage themselves in a way, because in the circumstances that they're in right now, they see certain possibilities, and that goal surpasses everything that they know. So it would mean that they would have to extend themselves outside of the known. And that's the most, like, the scariest part for many people. Because if they fail, people will probably laugh at them, or, the people may make jokes of, the high intentions, or, calling them, I don't know, having your head in the cloud, or,
Right,
something along the way. And people don't want to deal with that.
right. But I want to say this right now for everyone watching. This is my experience, and I've read it, watching or listening. When you do YouTube and audio, I never know what to say. So, audience, and when you're participating, um, only people who haven't tried will give you crap if you fail. The people who've gone before, and the entrepreneurs and the business people who've been successful, they're like, hey, you tripped, that's all right, keep going. Like, people who've done it, they would never be the ones to wag fingers and point something. So i I hope this resonates with someone who really needed to hear that today, because absolutely, we've talked before, the people who give bad advice are those who do it because they love you. They will say, be safe, don't put yourself out there, because they don't want you to fail, but they've never experienced the success you're going for. And so similarly, people will say, see, I told you so, but they're, because they have you at that same level that they're used to you. A successful person wouldn't do that.
Right. And sometimes is, our own perception. I heard the story of a young gentleman that had really big goals, and he was doing really good, and he was having success, and all of a sudden he was about to really reach his goal. he started, plateauing, and nothing was happening. And he needed actually a mentor to help him discover that he believed, he had a subconscious belief that if he were to reach that goal, he would lose his friends. So he was sabotaging it without
Mm,
knowing. And that's, something else to look at. And what he did when he went back and asked his friends if, that was true. And obviously he found out that it wasn't. And within a day, everything shifted back and he reached his goal and actually surpassed it. So,
mm.
psychology is really fascinating, and the way our belief systems work. And one of the things that I would suggest to our audience to do is to start taking a look if maybe you have some competing beliefs that work against each other when you're setting your goals. And another thing that I wanted to bring up was a quote that I wrote today. It was by Michelangelo. The danger for most of us is not that we aim too high and miss it, but that it is too low and we reach it.
Yeah.
So I want to hear your take on that, because I thought that was so powerful.
The first thing that came to mind was a bit of my entrepreneurial journey, especially when I was in the corporate world and haven't made the leap to be a full-time coach. And that was, I was comfortable. I had a great salary. Doing my business was something I could add to when I had the time. And I had to manufacture hunger for my dreams. Because I think when you're so comfortable, you kind of lose your oomph or lose your spark for that.
Right, the
And I
hunger.
think serious related to that quote, to me that was because I was comfortable, I was achieving enough. Like, I had a great life as a corporate person, but I knew I wanted more. And I wanted to have a greater impact. And that's where I had to find that hunger to really spark me to go to that next level. And you also make me think of something, that quote made me think of um, sometimes people are successful by chance or luck, like they were in the right place. And I think I actually had this situation, my first business. I was super successful my first year by design. And then I moved to another location, and I was riding my coattails of the first summer, and I didn't put as much work in the
Mm-hmm.
next one, and I failed. And I think there's a piece on that when we think about our goals, or sometimes we think, oh, I don't need goals because no matter what I touch turns to gold and things just kind of magically work out for me. That only lasts so long. And,
Right.
and I know there's more than just luck, but generally you're winning without trying really hard.
Right.
But the point of goals is once you really dial that in with the laser focus and try hard, then you start really leapfrogging because you're doing it on purpose and you're
Mm-hmm.
directing your energies in the right place. So I think
And
of that with the achieving your goals, but they were set too low. Once again, you weren't doing it by design. You were just kind of going by default and winning.
mm-hmm.
You're not hungry enough to say, I want to take it to the next level, the growth level.
And you know what this reminds me of is the interview that we had with Brian, which is coming up for, in just a couple of weeks, where he talks about excellence. And I think if everybody made excellence a part of their goal setting, we would all be so much better off. But I think we really lack in that aspect. How do you see excellence in goal setting?
Hmm. I see excellence really about service. And like a big thing, I don't know where I learned this, but the most successful people help other people get what they need.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I think that excellence piece is being really clued in to not only what do people need and serving them, but then working on myself to better serve that need and continuing to help. When I did my MBA program, I really resonated with me. There was a I think it was a VP of marketing for some major company,
Mhm.
and he said, "Do you really want to know how to create great products? Look for existing products and see where people compensate, and you remove that compensation." So, if you have, oh, I share the story when I got my first car in a long time. It was a little Kia Forte, and I remember being in the car on a cold day, and I hit the defrost because there was ice all over the place. I'm the type of person who just lets the heater warm stuff up so I don't have to work that hard at scraping. And when I hit the defrost and I was getting ready to scrape the side mirrors, and the defrost worked on the side mirrors. That's something I never knew I wanted until I experienced it.
So you had
And
it.
to
Yeah.
me, that was someone who looked at the compensation pace and said, you know what? It doesn't make sense that people have to scrape their mirrors because all it does is move them all over the place and then you have to set them up. They figured out how to do that. So to me, excellence is um, who are you serving? Where are they compensating? What are the problems that they're needing to solve? And then being, I really think of goals aren't necessarily about a doing, but it's more of a being. Who do I need to be able to do this? Because once you get to that identity and being, then everything else kind of makes sense. If I just try to do without the being, old Brian is going to always fight against that. I'm going to always go back to the non-hungry, not where I was.
And I think, goals also come at us because there's a discontent. And like you said with the mirrors, at first you didn't know you wanted that. But once you had it, if you were to have another car that didn't have it, you would probably really be, distraught or upset. And I think
Yeah,
with us, when we have goals, whether it's in business or, in our health or any other area, it's because we know there is better for us, and we see it around us, or we've been in that situation before. Like in weight loss, for example, if someone had already been slim and they gain weight, they know that there is better, or they see someone else who has what they desire, so there is a discontent. And the goal, like, and I think it would help people to look at, once again, when they set that goal, is the in the excellence part. I'm thinking more, as you said, how does it serve others? Because it's not selfish to add people to your goal, in the sense that if you wanted to lose weight, or if you wanted to make money in your business, it's not only going to affect you, it's going to affect your family, it's going to affect your friends, it's going to affect your children. And
and your
if you
charity of
add
choice.
those pieces,
Yep.
right, to the goal setting, then it solidifies for why you're doing it. And then when you're like trying to give up, or we're gonna have different curveballs thrown at us, bringing those reminders back in, it will push us, through the hard times.
Yeah. And I like too what you're saying, kind of related to the purpose and the why behind your doing it, because there's a lot of times we don't hit what we wrote down, but we still win because the why is fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Because I use this metaphor a lot of my goal is to move the mountain. We said we can move the mountains, it's just a word, but you have to go, well, why do I want to move the mountain? Because I want to get to the other side. So if that's the real goal, maybe it's a tunnel, maybe it's traveling around, or maybe it's going backwards around the world to end up. Like there's all sorts of
Right.
different ways to get there. And so often we focus on the how or the tactic instead of the purpose. And so
Right.
once again, it's the purpose of what do we want out of that goal, and also the who are we doing it for.
This, what this reminds you of the piece of conversation that we had with Teresa, where you were talking about being on stage and, meeting it in a different way. Do you want to tell our audience a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so when I was in college and high school, I was an actor on the stage and loved directing theater. And when I started working and working far from my house, I didn't do as much theater, even though I loved it. But when I started to get into consulting, I recognized everything that I loved about being on stage was what was happening as a consultant. Instead of telling a story that's scripted, the story really is my client's journey and the wins that they have, the obstacles they overcome. All of that is a story. And then I'm also able to be on stage. I'm able to get the attention I like. Hey, I'm doing a show. Obviously, I like people to watch me talk, right? Um, so to me, that's the audience that I enjoy. And I found that everything that I liked about the stage was what I got through consulting. So even though I'm not yet the world's famous stage director, which during COVID, it's a really nice thing that that's not where I'm at because all the theaters are closed right now. Um, but I'm still able to be fulfilled because that's ultimately what I wanted and needed. Similar with your goals is thinking about that.
And you know what this also makes me think of is something that Tony Robbins talks about a lot, and has been something that's helped me, is knowing your target, but being flexible in the way we approach it. Because many
Mhm.
people really do trip over by how they're supposed to get to the goal. You know, sometimes, you know, since I use, and I know I use a lot the metaphor of losing weight, is because you may try 20 different weight loss programs until you find the one that works for you. And that's fine, but it doesn't mean that you failed. You just haven't found the right way. Or maybe in the journey you understand more about yourself. Maybe you um find that you hit a certain level, and after that you're not progressing anymore. So look at the feedback. What are some things that you've learned from setting goals, and what has it done for you as an entrepreneur?
I think about when I made an offer, and I did an offer a few months ago, and my goal, because I was doing some market research, and I found a few people, they wanted to go from an idea to launch quickly, and I hadn't done that yet. So I said, all right, I'm going to go first. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to go from idea to launch in 1 week. Took me 6. And I recognized through that process all of the stuff I had to learn. I had to really figure out copywriting. Like I didn't really, I knew how to do some, but my copy wasn't that good when I had a coach look at it. And I had to learn even different technology pieces through the world of funnels and email setups, and all of that stuff was slower than I anticipated. But every day I still made progress. And so I think for that is recognize that even, and I'm sure I've said this, the growth zone is the slow zone. If
Hmm.
you're a high performer and you're used to knocking it out of the park all the time, when you're doing new stuff, you're going to hit the brakes.
Oh yeah.
Even a high performer will do that. And so that was a bit of an adjustment for me. But I know with my next offer, I'll be able to I could definitely do it in 3 weeks, if not 2, maybe even a week. Because
Right.
it's going through the hard, not hitting what I want. I still learn. I'm still
Hmm.
getting better from it, and it's going to be better. I say this all the time. One of my favorite quotes, Nelson Mandela: I either win or I learn. I never fail.
Hmm.
But I will say, I heard this in the last couple of weeks, and I really love it, is these successful entrepreneurs who just say, I'm a failure. I have failed so many times to get where I want. So we have to fail, but we have to learn. If you're not failing or learning, you're probably not, when we're talking about the not hungry person, the Da Vinci, I'm hitting goals, but I'm not stretching myself. The people who are playing at a big level have failed a lot, and that's just part of it. And so bring it.
You're right, and that's such a powerful, shift in your mindset, because once you start embracing failure and you understand it is part of, your growth, and it's part of reaching your goals, you there's a different energy that you bring to, completing your goals, and caring about yourself, and then having the patience with others. There's just so much that happened, and I wish more people would embark on like trying to set some goals that are like so far out there that it scares them, like
Yeah,
literally scares them. And to me, it's so interesting. Back when I started like actually writing goals on paper, I remember being so scared because I had experienced anxiety for several years at that time. And my goodness, it was so hard for me. And it is so interesting because I woke up like remembering this morning. I was scared to get on a call. Literally, like if I was getting a call, I was just shaking. I'm like, what am I going to say? What are they going to say? Is this crazy thing that happens in your head? And goal setting literally saved me in a way, because I wrote some goals that at that time I'm like, what am I even thinking to write these on paper? And now I'm so glad that I did, because the person I am today, the way I see the world, the way I do things, the way I help clients, the way I've grown, I would not trade it for anything in the world. And if it was that anxiety that, took me from, being this like weaker version of myself to this empowered version of
mm,
myself, then so be it. Maybe that's really what I needed. So I want to encourage those of you who are listening, if you are experiencing anxiety, or if you're um, experiencing doubt or worry, or some type of a negative emotion, understand that it's just an emotion and it does not define you. And strive to look at the things that will make you so big that that part of you will cease to exist, or it will be so quiet that you won't even remember it was a part of you.
yeah, you're really making kind of stirring my heart on this. So I'm going to speak from my heart on this for people. If you've never journaled, at least do a journal when you're writing your goals, because I think, and this is what's on my heart, is I think you should also write, I deserve this goal. Because I think so often people write their goals and they say, that's not me. That's not, like, I work with so many people on stop disqualifying yourself. I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm not too smart, I'm not good at technology. Like, we say all of these reasons why it shouldn't. And I think a lot of it comes down to sometimes your self-worth.
Oh yeah.
And you have to tell yourself, I am worth this. There's a reason why you keep being nudged towards this goal.
Hmm. The deeper knowing, the purpose. It's like pulling the strings, and it's like, okay, wake up. You've been asleep long enough. You've been in this trance. It's time for you to
Yeah,
create your own life.
yeah. So if you've never done it, pause or do this when you get back out if you're driving or something. But what is something that has just been tugging at you? Something always saying, I want to do this. I want to do this. I should do this. Listen to it. And then tell yourself, because so often we go, well, why? Because you deserve it. The world wants it, and the world wants it from you. That's a signal.
Oh yeah.
Make a goal, and then that's going to say, especially those kind of things, they're huge. That gets into the overwhelm that we talked about earlier. Then you got to start to go, what do I do next? Just what's the first step? Because all you need to do is start getting that momentum, and then the rest of the journey makes sense. You don't have to have it all planned out. You can have a 5-year goal. You don't need to have whatever 5 times 12 is 60 months planned out. You just need to know what do you do in the first quarter.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up, journaling, because maybe that right there could be the first goal. and, creating that momentum. And I know that when it comes in, it's beautiful that you touched on it. And when it comes to money, a lot of people really don't feel that they deserve, especially as coaches, they feel like they don't deserve to be paid, especially not a large amount of money. And it's all our belief system. And when you start journaling, you start looking at the things that you tell yourself and that are in front of you that you've never even realized. Because when you state a wish, it's almost possible, but when you start getting into the action, you start noticing all the negative beliefs that you've accumulated over the years that you are not even aware of. And that's really when the journey truly begins.
Yeah. And there's so many things we could talk about with goals. I'm going, oh yeah, we like to try to keep this episode under 30 minutes. Because I'm like, then there's about visualization and making them audible and how do you actually craft these and make. So I think we've got so much more to talk about. This is just the start of the goal conversation. But I want to invite everyone to check out, we have a Facebook page that lets you know when new episodes are out there. We also have a Facebook group where you can interact with Kat and I. I would love to hear from you. What are some things that you struggle with goals? Or what are some of the things that have been a win for you in your goals as well? And check us out on YouTube or any of your podcatcher of choice, People, Purpose, and Profit Business Coaching. Kat and I are just honored to have you as an audience. And our goal is to get to know you better so that way these episodes will just be like the best candy. And we're like, oh, you're giving me exactly what I want and need. So we need to hear that so we can make sure that we give our expertise and all of the learnings that we've done and pass it on to you so you can be successful and make the impact that you deserve. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
See you soon.